Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and I'd like to welcome you to Mayor Richard D. O'Brien's annual State of the City address. My name is Marisela Garcia, and I'm the interim city manager for this great city of Riverbank. I'd like to welcome Vice Mayor Cal Campbell, who will be leading us in the flag salute.
Would everyone please stand? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Please come.
And now I'd like to welcome Deacon Richard Williamson with St. Francis of Rome Church for the invocation.
I invite everyone, if they wouldn't mind, to stand, maybe bow your heads. Dear God, as we gather in this place, may you shower your blessings upon each of us and prepare our hearts for the things that will be discussed or listened to. Lord, help us to be a blessing in the way we speak and act. Let everything we discuss here be in alignment with your word. And may we speak with humility when presenting any ideas. Help us to admit any mistakes we might make and be willing to act upon the solutions people offer. May your glory and peace fill this meeting. And I invite us all in the silence of our hearts to pray for peace in the war-torn world that we have, remembering the people in Ukraine, Syria, Yemen. Amen.
Amen. In Mayor O'Brien's address, you will hear all about the city's accomplishments over the past year. You'll get a peek into the vision that our city council has for its future. The accomplishments are the fruits of the labor of the city council, who have collaborated in establishing the city's strategic goals, and so that we all have a common vision to strive for, and all of our Riverbank staff, who despite the pandemic, were all able to achieve so much throughout the year. Thank you to Sue Fitzpatrick, our Director of Parks and Recreation, and her staff, who despite the pandemic were able to offer recreation programs and host events in a safe environment for all. Thank you to Michael Rydell, our Public Works Director, and his staff for keeping our drinking water safe, keeping our wastewater flowing, and navigating the City Council through the development of a future recycled water facility for the City of Riverbank. Thank you to Donna Kinney and her staff, and who over the course of the past year were able to work closely with developers to initiate projects such as the Countryside and Crossroads West Phase 1. Thank you to Tammy Alcantar and her finance staff team for being creative during the pandemic and finding ways to best serve our residential and commercial customers in our new virtual world. Thank you to Chief Reidenauer and the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department for being strategic in your staffing needs, which will help address law enforcement concerns from the root cause. To Kathleen Cleek and her development services staff, who over the past year were able to successfully complete approximately $1.9 million in projects that have been funded locally, state, and federal allocations. A special thanks to Melissa Holdaway from our local redevelopment agency, who has been instrumental in allowing our Riverbank Industrial Complex to thrive, and who will be key as the site transitions to our master developer. And of course, for me, a huge thank you to the administration team, who was tasked with ensuring that our city council meetings ran smoothly in this virtual world, that our staff was informed of the ever-changing COVID-19 regulations, and who organized and hosted a variety of special events for our city, including tonight's event and the successful Centennial Gala. And so without further ado, I welcome Mayor Richard D. O'Brien to the podium.
Thank you very much. I didn't say any of that. I'd like to acknowledge the following: Supervisor Condit, Mayor Bubalak, Mayor Zawalin, Riverbank Board President, Mr. Velasco. Thank you for being here. We also have representatives from various offices. And I'd like to also acknowledge the backbone of the decision-making is our city council members. Vice Mayor Campbell, Councilmember Hernandez, and Councilmember Uribe. Councilmember Barbara Martinez is not here tonight. She is taking care of a family member. You know, it's always a great honor and a pleasure to give the state of the city for the city of Riverbank. This year, our city becomes 100 years since our incorporation. As we look back at our origin, we look beyond Major James Birney and the 19th century ferry across the Stanislaus River. We must acknowledge the Yokut Indians, who were strong in family and in numbers prior to their contact with Europeans. Yokuts owned property, traded with other families, were hunter, gatherers, and did some minor farming. They lost many of their families due to the disease and cultural breakdown that was indicative of the Spanish system. Starting in 1849, the remainder of the Yokuts lost their land because of the aggressiveness of the California government. This valley then rapidly developed agriculture that in a very short period was producing for the world. When Riverbank was incorporated in 1922, there were about 700 residents. Now Riverbank is more than 25,000. As we continue to grow, we're mindful of our agricultural heritage and honor we owe to the Yokut people. There are many outside Riverbank who believe we should not grow any larger, that there is no housing crisis, and that any farmland around there is prime. Some of our residents believe that we do not need to help those in need. And if we do, not in my backyard. This council believes with a coordinated plan, Riverbank can grow, provide sustainable services, help those in need, protect the environment, and protect farmland. After our last state of the city, the state quickly went into lockdown due to the pandemic. While many businesses were shut down, those that were open were heavily regulated. The city of Riverbank changed day-to-day operations based on flexibility and safety, with public health our primary concern. Initially, closures of counter operations were quickly followed by creative methods to conduct business. Staff were placed into teams, and the alternate method of work on site or at home provided safe working environments and social distance. Over time, refinement provided greater services. This approach was applied across the board in our traditional services, to plus the adding of other additional programs, such as our senior check-in, mask distribution, COVID enforcement, small business and nonprofit assistance, outreach, COVID testing, and vaccination programs. The approach to the pandemic was additive to our work on providing municipal services and delivering quality projects. In short, the City of Action continued moving forward in our efforts to assist the homeless, provide affordable housing, Crossroads West development, Riverbank Industrial Complex Master Development Agreement, new businesses, Army-based conveyance, cannery reuse, tax sharing, and plus a lot of other major projects that will benefit Riverbank communities for generations. With Governor Newsom's enhancement to the Brown Act and the American Disability Act, it allowed for virtual meetings, provided the impetus for increasing our social media and upgrade our electronic suite. Our new website, use of YouTube and Zoom allowed for more access for comments to public meetings. We contracted with Opportunity Stanislaus to develop and implement a grant review program that distributed monies to over 30 businesses in Riverbank. Our program, developed with Operation Stanislaus, was then requested by other cities that emulated our accomplishments. The CARES Act provided funding through the state, which gave us opportunity to provide PPE, masks, sanitizers, thermometers to thousands of our residents through direct distribution. CARES Act funding for cities of less than 50,000 in population is provided by the state. While the state did well in distributing these funds, challenges were not minimized. The federal government provided more assistance to the larger cities per capita, believing those cities would need it much more than the smaller cities. When the second round of funding was being developed, it had to be pointed out to our advocates, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the National League of Cities, and our federally elected, that 63% of the population lived in communities under 50,000. The Fed has allocated funding for all the cities, but the cities under 50,000 are again being distributed through the state. The reasoning is the Treasury cannot track funding for all 19,500 cities. Come on. The IRS tracks hundreds of millions of tax forms and knows exactly when I make errors. 2021 marked our second year operating this organization under the COVID-19 pandemic. Much like 2020, the council, community, and staff refused to allow the circumstances to slow our progress and the good work for this city. We used lessons learned from 2020 and refined our processes to maintain the safety of our staff and residents while at the same time returning to our operations to a sense of normalcy. I've always been very proud of this staff. That perhaps is the most productive per capita of any public agency. In 2021 was no different, and the year marked a very aggressive time period virtually on all fronts within the city of Riverbank. There's a great need for security in City Hall. We all know that. While surveying the city buildings, it is noted that we have more employees than we have space. They are working over the top of each other. During the pandemic, city employees worked from home whenever possible, but now are returning. Many more employees are needed for the expected growth. A spatial analysis determined the current near and long-term needs will be determining the funding requirement and the method of payment. If we decide to move forward, we may be coming to you for bonding approval. Development interest in Riverbank reached an all-time high as we have seen Crossroads West begin construction after nearly a decade of planning. Shouldn't have taken that long. East Side subdivision continued to develop at a rapid pace, as do affordable housing, entitlements, commercial infill projects, and even some industrial growth. In all, there are 15 major subdivisions being developed or finalized. An example of this, 158 permits were processed in the first 25 business days of this calendar year. If current market conditions persist, Riverbank will continue to experience widespread interest for the foreseeable future. We have attempted to meet this growth with improving our infrastructure throughout the city. We completed or is currently in construction on a wide variety of capital projects in roads, sidewalks, water, sewer, and parks. These projects were each chosen strategically by the council staff to invest in our community. A full slate of capital projects completed, designed, and planned are in the works for 2022. We have worked long and hard term plans and achieved funding on a variety of strategic initiatives. For the last 5 years, we looked for funding from the federal, state, and county governments to stand up our comprehensive housing projects. Our great group of nonprofits, faith-based community, religious leaders, and community service organizations meant to revalidate the plans previously developed. While there have been outside interest in our goals, funding was not available. This council took a very bold step in using general funds to stand up transitional shelters and services system. We were left off the first and second round of funding, but when our commitment was realized, funding started to flow. We contracted with Cambridge Academy to stand up the facility and commenced Restart Riverbank program. This is a transitional housing for those on the streets. Educational programs are being offered to improve life skills and training that could lead to employment. Treatment programs are being coordinated by the Cambridge Academy. A pilot program with St. Francis of Roan is being completed through an MOU. Low-income housing program, specifically for the transition, for those who transition successfully, is being developed together with our nonprofits, faith-based organization, housing authority, and the city, where we'll continue this program to provide relief to those who seek it and a roof for those in need. It's very important to note that this group of nonprofits are essential to the success of our program. Where the government cannot fulfill, these groups have committed resources to ensure success. During a Zoom meeting with Senator Eggman and her chief of staff, we convinced them that we are committed to our successes that we have laid out. Senator Eggman submitted and was approved a $2 million budgeted line item specifically for our programs. That's never happened before. Simultaneously, thank you, Buck, the county opened their checkbook for building improvement and program development. We've had great successes in affordable and low-income housing in the past years, and we have 24 units of affordable single-family housing being constructed now, with many additional homes of varying affordability being completed throughout the city. Working with the Stanislaus Regional Housing Authority, a broader and more complete plan is being developed. We need to get those families living in garages or couches surfing into a place of their own and provide stability for them and their children. We have applied for the program turnkey grant that will help invest in our housing for transitional assistance. Our program is a total city effort with major contributors ensuring our success. While the Sierra House environmental review is in the final stages and not yet ready for occupancy, temporary facilities are filling the gap. Our programs are in full gear and will reap great benefits this year. We continue to build housing on the east side in Bruinville and other subdivisions. Crossroads West is starting the first of 2,800 homes being constructed in varying affordabilities. In the very near future, we will be asked to consider additional housing development, Riverwalk, which is a planned community of approximately 3,800 units. While a large number of homes will be designed for older, active adult living, there is no discerning on age, wherever one wants to live. This plan will go through the process and the results will determine on housing needs, balancing agriculture preservation, environmental concerns, and employment opportunities. So building homes must be balanced with a housing to job ratio. That is what our expectations are under our current plan. While we are committed to our sustainable community strategy, we're also committed to a complete environmental and social justice approach to our balance. To achieve this balance, each rooftop, a job will be created. Our Crossroads West Shopping Center will provide approximately 2,400 additional job opportunities. Not all will be high-paying jobs necessary for a livable income, but many will. Will the lowest wages be set at $30,000 per year? Other job opportunities will exist in the industrial and other areas of the city. In addition to jobs, there will be in addition to jobs, the tax revenue generated will double our sales tax income. Over the last 8 years, we're so very close to completing the turnover of the Riverbank Industrial Complex from the U.S. Army. I keep saying this over and over. And the Army complicated contamination of groundwater outside the base is now challenging the rules for transfer by the US EPA and the California Department of Toxic Substance Control. While agreements between them are being concluded, the conveyance is within a year. Personal assurances by the BRAC administrator, Mr. Mike Rayhauser, were given to me during a visit in August last year. That may or may not happen, but what is refreshing, that since his visit, the recent change in attitude when issues arise, response times are much quicker, an extended lease was signed, and is the impetus for a large funding organization providing hundreds of millions of dollars for investment. I've spoken directly to the Department of Toxic Substance Control, Cal EPA, and the US EPA, and they are all very supportive of our project at the old Army base. They would like the transfer to occur as soon as practical and support our initiatives. With a little push, we could finalize a schedule and meet a reasonable timeline. Our master developer, Ametis, will be investing over $700 million for biofuels. You threw me off. For an ethanol plant with additional investment in capital and in the capture of any carbon byproducts and discharge that byproduct into the earth. With hydroelectricity powering the industrial complex, Ametis operation is truly a sub-zero process. Engineering plans for the ethanol plant are being completed and will be submitted to the Army for review and concurrence. The master developer agreement is signed, and Ametis, along with Kerry Pope, has taken over the day-to-day management of the industrial site. Ametis Riverbank project is needed to meet the mandates set forth by the federal renewable fuel standards and California low carbon fuel standards to improve air quality, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, expand domestic employment, reduce dependence on imported crude oil, and attract investment to the US industrial projects, especially us. This plant will convert waste, forest, and other biomass in California into clean, low carbon biofuels. How fortuitous. The Air Board last month just banned agriculture burning in the Central Valley, and Ametis use of agricultural waste is an additive value. The US Department of Energy is working with the Department of Transportation, Agriculture, Defense, and other federal agencies to develop a comprehensive strategy for scaling up new technologies to produce sustainable aviation fuel program. To produce a program on a commercial level. The Sustainable Aviation Fuel Grand Challenge will produce 100% of sustainable aviation fuel by 2050, with an interim goal of 13 billion gallons by 2030. Ametis has secured over $10 billion in aviation fuel contracts, and they must be starting the process shortly. The jobs that Ametis will produce are very high paying, and the economic impact for this region is well over $150 million per year. California has many strategies for the control of plastics. No commentary here. But our industrial complex has Circulus, a company that ribbon cutting would have been in February, but due to the COVID did not take place. And it produces plastic resin pellets that can easily be made into single-use bottles. These are the plastic pellets, and they're going to be used by a national soft drink company. If I had one, I probably couldn't put it up there for copyrights, but that's going to be the primary consumer. Canadian industries are interested in an additional line to produce similar products for them. While Circulus is already providing high-paying jobs, Their economic impact for this region is estimated $113 million per year. There are 3 other companies changing plastic waste into other products, such as garden borders, bender board, slip sheets. California passed AB 341. I'm glad they did. Waste production mandating 75% of our organic waste to be reduced and from our landfills. This reduction will eliminate a large portion of greenhouse gases. Jilton is developing a process to comply with the law, and that will be addressed in our 218 process. However, organic waste, once processed, becomes the responsibility of the community of origin. So what are we going to do with the tons? We could spread that across the city at a depth of about 3 feet, or we could have Riverbank Organics process the waste into feed and fertilizer. Their consumer is a large poultry processor, and Jilton will be a partner in this process. Riverbank Organic is currently under construction, investing $30 million, will commence operations late summer, providing very high-paying jobs. There are other green industries that are at the site coming to and interested in coming to Riverbank, because this council had foresight in 2014 by taking bold action designating this industrial complex an environmental conservation site. The economic impact report for this, environmental impact report for this industrial complex was completed in 2014. At the same time, the specific plan for the industrial complex ensure business-friendly and streamlined process for rapid approval for new business development. Since 2014, Riverbank has sought to attract companies that will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions and reduce global warming. Now, both state and federal governments are on board with our vision. Funding is now becoming available that could support our goal, and it could be a win-win for all. The opportunities that are present at the Riverbank Industrial Complex are huge, and nowhere in this region are opportunities great as they are in Riverbank. In all, the industrial complex will produce over 2,000 direct livable wage jobs when completely built out, and thousands of secondary jobs in support. The Contadina plant is being repurposed and will provide close to 400 immediate high-paying jobs with over 1,000 direct livable wage jobs in the long run. In all, Riverbank will have a suitable job to housing ratio. There will be additive employment for the continuing construction of housing in Riverbank and business build-outs at the industrial complex. The North County Corridor received a federal build grant of $20 million that will start construction next year on the 3-mile segment that will begin at the MID lateral on Clarabelle, swing south, then east, back to Clarabelle near Claus Road. An overpass at Clarabelle and the North County Corridor at the BNS tracks will lessen the impacts on Terminal Avenue and increase safety. Our original $92 million from the Oakdale bypass was repurposed by the California Transportation Commission, and focus has shifted from building roads to building bike and pedestrian lanes. So we must change our narrative when we speak of the North County Corridor to the additive benefits of bike and pedestrian lanes being added along Clarabelle and Roselle. Bike and pedestrian lanes will also be added along Roselle and Oakdale from Clarabelle south to approximately 3/4 of the way to Sylvan. These lanes will become part of an interconnecting network between Riverbank and Modesto, and a start towards Oakdale. While the North County Corridor will impact the industrial complex, the existence of this corridor as eventually 6-lane freeway adjacent to the site will have tremendous benefits, serving the transportation of goods to California 99. This corridor was a large selling point to many of the businesses developing here and must be completed to fulfill our obligation and commitments to them. We have completed a design on a $6 million energy efficiency project. Several microgrids will be developed, one for the community center, which will serve as an emergency shelter during catastrophic events, such as the recent fire at Jamestown displacing their residents. The center can be taken off the grid in the event of uncertain electrical conditions. Other microgrids are being developed, and in a 10-year span will save over $9 million of general fund. We located a firm to draw up the plans for a tertiary wastewater treatment plant. We are in the process of securing grants and funding for construction. We are in a drought, and even though our aquifer is healthy, because the Stanislaus River is the main contributor to the aquifer and can supply our water needs through another 5 or plus years of drought, the state sees many of the aquifers as being overdrafted and will treat all aquifers the same. Our goal is to recharge our water supply with tertiary treated water, stormwater capture, and recharge, and supply agriculture during the dry months. The timing is right for the construction of the tertiary plant. The infrastructure bill recently passed provides money for projects like this. The methods for distribution of money are still in discussion. So the faster we get our plan together, the better chance we have to receive maximum funding. Expansion of services to neighboring cities could make this plant regional and desirable by both state and federal governments. SSJID is extremely interested in this project, as are local farmers. A byproduct of this conversion will be methane, which, when captured, will be used in generators to power the wastewater treatment plant. Adding solar and power storage will create a microgrid that will not interrupt operations during power shutdowns. Recent housing construction and a heavy rain allowed nitrates to seep into our well at the Crossroads West. We discovered the contamination and immediately shut down the well and reported it to the water board. The level of nitrate was above the limits authorized by the state at the well, but undetected at the tap. Our water is superior in quality, and we will remain vigilant to ensure that quality remains. We have come to a tentative agreement with the county on property tax sharing. 20% of the property taxes will now be split equally between the county and the city. This will ensure up to 35% increase in our property tax revenues in the future. Special district and schools still receive the funding through the 1992 Education Revenue Augmentation Fund, or ERAF, of approximately 74%. If we carefully manage the ERAF, instead of allowing the state to manage it, we can give the proper funding to our special districts and schools and have cost savings be put back into the city's general fund. This is our next step in ensuring our funds are properly allocated. We will work closely with the state to ensure that there are no surprises when there is a change in tax payment. The county will also benefit greatly from managing ERAF. We have received numerous requests to defund the police. Groups and individuals believe funding the police is a subsidy that promotes and encourages a system based in racial and class inequality. They further believe it is not the police that promote community safety. It is affordable housing, educational opportunities, community violent intervention programs, and access to holistic health treatment. While we agree with the need to be more socially aware while policing, Sheriff Dursky and other law enforcement leaders and local leaders are participating in Project Resolve. The goal of Project Resolve is to change the perception and attitude in policing and the community. It is a significant effort gathering data and taken action providing educational guidance to the community and the police. There is measurable progress in identified areas of our strengths, weaknesses, and the opportunities for improving and maintaining strong relationships between the residents of Stanislaus County and their local law enforcement. Riverbank Police Services engagement and education has continued to lead the path to success and will continue to stay engaged with our community, looking for new ways to strengthen relationships, focus on traffic safety, reduce crime, and ensure the residents have a safe and healthy quality of life. Our police will be hosting and participating in community events in the upcoming year. Our community service officer, Deputy Song position has proved to be invaluable as it is versatile and focuses on the quality of life issues. As we look to increase staffing levels to keep up with the growth, additional community service officers positions will expand the program. There are plans to host more frequent casual public meetings around the community and with small businesses to allow the public to interact with the police over a conversation in a low-key setting and informal public meetings. Safety issues and have an open dialogue. Our police understand they cannot be effective without the community help and partnership. They are also working very closely with the schools to provide a school resource officer. A school resource officer and additional community service officers will dramatically change the direction and the perception of policing in our city. Now, each of these categories that I've mentioned take thousands of hours of staff time in negotiation, research, documentation, discussion, and decisions. The same goes for those doing business with the city. And this does not count those projects that did not make it to come forward. Our reserves are stronger than anticipated. However, there is a great uncertainty in international, national, state, and local levels. Our Riverbank Police Service budget will increase as we grow, as it will increase yearly. Our employees' costs are expected to rise approximately 18%, which includes step and annual raises, plus our unfunded liabilities increase payment. Additional employees are needed. Inflation increases are higher than expected. A large percent of our general fund is used for salaries, benefits, and CalPERS management practices. The bottom line is that our reserve may be reduced from our 41% level downwards over the next 5 years. I've addressed increased proportion in the property taxes, savings due to the microgrids, and future sales tax that will support sustainability in our budget. Only unforeseen dramatic economic downturn could interrupt our progress. As I laid out our achievements and goals, you see many examples throughout the city. My hope is that I presented our total body of work as synergistic pieces to a puzzle that fits together. Each piece can be taken singularly, but each piece cannot stand alone for a long period of time without consequences. You can see that there is a vision in our future as we continue to move forward in the planning, development, and improvements. Our city is much better off than it was a few years ago. There continues to be great strides in retail additions, housing improvements, cooperation with other government agencies, and much richer in community events. Our state of the city is strong because of our collective desire to make it better and the commitment to work towards that end. To keep the city strong, this council will continue to look to the future and evaluate what we must do today. In only one way is the state of this city poor, and that is because we lost one of Riverbank's best friend and supporter, Alan Trawick. He contributed to our community through his guidance as a city council member and mayor. He was a key member to secure funding for the community park, community pool, and this community center. And He got funding for a wastewater treatment plant. Serving this city for over 20 years, he has left his mark and propelled us to where we are today. His contributions will long be remembered. Our city is strong because of you and those protecting this city's interest. All of us have worked together so we will succeed. God bless you, Riverbank, and God bless America. Thank you. All right, now I told Norma I wouldn't do this. Are there any questions? Thank you all. Thank you for being here. It's really nice to see faces. Sure. We have, I believe we've secured the question was concerning the shelter. When will it open? Are there contractors available? I believe we have secured a contractor. We're waiting for the environmental to be completed by the county. And Supervisor Condit just said that he was going to help with that. But we need to have that moved along so we can do the reconstruction. We have Cambridge Academy here tonight that is anxious to get people in, get people trained and moved through transition. We're also looking for properties since housing is not available where we can put transitional housing on. So all of that is in the makings. And if you think it took 10 years to start building houses in Crossroads West, what we've done in the last 6 months is amazing. So hopefully in another 6 months, we'll be full up and running. You're welcome. No other?